One thing that has definitely never been missing from the organizations that are part of this working group is the passion that they have for the kids in the state of Arkansas. What I think they were missing is the partnership between all of those different groups. Taking each of the strengths and advantages that these different groups have, putting them at one table is going to really help serve the kids of Arkansas in a way that we've never seen before.
This is Season 3 of the SmartJustice podcast, A Chance at Life.
Crime and punishment are hot topics. Are there solutions different than what we're hearing about at a national level?
Kids find themselves just struggling to survive, doing the best they can.
There is a different way to approach justice that has better return on investment.
We don't want people to be dependent. We want to help them get to stability.
That seems to strengthen both law enforcement and courts.
The number one goal in most cases, we want reunification.
And tie that together with community resources and then track the impact to communities and better outcomes.
The best place for a child who's in our foster care system is with a family.
And we're calling this approach SmartJustice.
SmartJustice is a work of Restore Hope and partner organizations. Restore Hope is a software and services organization that helps communities achieve better outcomes for justice and child welfare efforts.
Hey, welcome to this final episode of Season 3 of SmartJustice, where we're talking about the child welfare system and how do we give children and families a chance at life. And so, Andrew, we've been talking about and have interviewed many different stakeholders that are surrounding kind of this child welfare system that provide both support and then have legal responsibilities for families and children once a case is opened. And so really in this episode, we wanted to talk about, so what do you do with all of that? Given just the sheer scope and issues and the number of people involved, what do we do?
These people who are doing so much in so many different ways, you're right. I mean, we've had a number of different people who have come and been a part of this, and grateful and thankful for them doing that. But I think moving forward, there's got to be even more people at the table. There's finding there's still holes, and we know that's true. It can't come down to one person. It can't come down to one organization. It can't come down to one entity. No, it's bigger than that. We need for those who have had a history to come back to the table. We need for there to be new folks at the table, as collectively as a community we're working to see things to be different. This isn't new, right? I mean, in a previous episode, you talked about 2007. Well, we can go back to 1977, right? Then you can go back to 1907. And we didn't all of a sudden find ourselves here. And the reality is, and we're not all of a sudden going to get out. It's not going to all be fixed and all be better tomorrow. But more of the community coming. I think where we go is in even greater collaboration. Where we go is people figuring out they are a piece of that big puzzle that makes up the great state of Arkansas. And I think we're starting to see that. We're starting to see that with efforts like Every Child Arkansas. And it's important. And it's not going to become less, it's actually going to become more. And there'll be more opportunities for people to participate and more opportunities for people to serve.
You know, it was probably about 2 years ago that I first met Phil Goad, who we've interviewed before. Phil was seeing the need to be able to connect the organizations that we're currently a part of, recruiting and supporting foster families, and then any support that was going on for biological families. And he started sharing this kind of vision with me and others, and it was really through his vision and effort that many of these organizations, now almost 30 organizations, have been coming together to try to figure out what would a deeper partnership look like. How could each one of these organizations do more in their own community? Just as Every Child Arkansas was ready to launch after a year and a half worth of meetings from many of these organizations. Governor Sanders was elected and she took office. And in February of 2023, she issued an executive order that included DHS. It ordered DHS, Department of Public Safety, Department of Ed, and this group, Every Child Arkansas, that has about 30 different organizational members in it, to come together to create a new plan for Arkansas for addressing preserving families, reuniting families, and taking care of whatever permanency decision was made by the court after that, so that the best could be made after hard situations. And to execute that executive order, she also brought in Secretary of DHS, Christy Putnam. We had the opportunity to sit down with Secretary Putnam to talk with her about exactly what plan is going to come out of that. Governor Sanders issued an executive order around foster care. Can you talk to us a little bit about what was in that order?
There are three main purposes to it. One is to streamline the process for placement of children with relatives, to improve and streamline the process for children to be adopted from our foster care system, and the last one is to enhance services for children who are in foster care, but they're going to turn 18 and what's called age out of foster care, to really create a better service array for those kids who are going to be on their own and were part of the foster care system. I think we're fortunate in that there's already been a lot of great partners doing a lot of very hard, very creative and innovative work in the space of foster care. I think one of the things that's hardest for us to wrap our brain around is we've got this number that's usually between 4,100 and 4,200 kids in out-of-home care. That's a big number when you think about it from a statewide perspective. What I really want to see us do is break that down county by county, get into the communities, and have communities understand that they are the solution for helping families become stronger, for helping families reunify with those children, for supporting the caseworkers who are part of the foster care system. And really, when you break it down to a county number and it's 42 kids, it's much more manageable and people feel like there's something they can actually do about improving the services to our families and really making families stronger.
If you're one of the people in the communities they've come across this podcast and are wondering what they could do in their own community, what would that look like for them? What would you suggest they do?
Anything small, anything larger. The first thing I would say is sign up to be a foster family. We do need more foster families. The best place for a child who's in our foster care system is with a family. And so you can sign up to be a foster family. It's not for everyone. So if you don't feel like you are led to foster, then you can support a foster family or encourage. You might have a next door neighbor who's been thinking about it. You can encourage them to connect, reach out to the Every Child Arkansas website. Everyone who goes on that website and inquires can be connected to a live person who can tell them all about the process of becoming foster families. The other thing is you can support your family services workers, the caseworkers who are part of the Department of Human Services. They have a hard job to do, and they deal with the most difficult of circumstances, and they go back in every day, and they're constantly working with families who, sometimes there are no good options for some of the children. And so take them cookies, write them a note, support and encourage them, pray for them. These are all ways that we can help with our frontline staff.
What about the biological families? I've heard you before say that prevention is real important.
I would really like to see us focus on prevention in all circumstances. A lot of times intensive in-home supports are what's needed, and so really identifying those families who may be at risk for their children leaving their home, working with them sooner, providing substance use counseling, substance recovery counseling, providing, sometimes it's as simple as some additional resources that are needed, whether those are monetary resources or social resources, connections to supports in the community. So that prevention can look a lot of different ways. The biggest thing that we can do, in my opinion, is really connect all of our resources across not just DHS, but across all of our agencies and across all of our community partners. Our children and families don't come to us in pieces, but we budget and plan for them as if they do. And that's my biggest thing, is to just really be interconnected as much as we possibly can so that we are one team serving these families and children.
Have you had any ideas around how to connect agencies kind of in that operational way?
So we have, and we were actively working on some of them. The executive order on improving foster care pulls in the Department of Public Safety and the Department of Education as well. We have a great partnership with the Department of Education, and I think that that's, since most kids are in school or they're going to be in school at some point, it's a natural place for us to really make sure that parents know of the resources that are available to them in their communities. And we'd like to partner more strongly in a more vigorous way with the individual school districts and schools themselves on how do we provide not just information, but how do we actively connect and get into the schools and have our folks there to be that warm connection. The governor has encouraged all of the cabinets to think holistically about the services we provide, and the answer of just because we've done it that way, that's how we've always done it, doesn't fly anymore. So we're figuring out new and creative ways that public safety and DHS can work together to perhaps make the investigation and removal process, if it has to happen, a more kind and gentle process for the family, to really make sure that they understand that we're there to support them and that this is not intended to be punitive, although it's going to feel that way when children do have to leave their homes.
So if I wanted to get involved in trying to help families in my community, what's that look like?
Well, we're excited about Every Child Arkansas. One of the biggest reasons, there are a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is we've never had one place, one website that anyone can go to and submit an inquiry, just a question even, and get information, get connected information on fostering or how to help support foster families, how to help support families, birth families, and caseworkers. And now we've got this one place. People can go to it. People can go to the Facebook page, the Instagram, like and share, and there are all kinds of ways to connect people, but it's through that one-stop shop, the everychildarkansas.org website.
The way forward in Arkansas is through collaborative efforts of both agencies and community-based organizations. And as we talked earlier, and we've heard from Dr. Phil Goad, who was really the catalytic figure who started this Every Child Arkansas effort. I can remember, Phil, the first time that we met was on telephone, I believe, and you were talking about this collective impact action that needed to happen amongst all the different child welfare agencies out there, and now it's become something called a network called Every Child Arkansas. But what led you to start thinking that we needed to do this collaborative effort?
I've had the opportunity, the blessing of being on the board for the Christian Alliance for Orphans, and it's an organization actually that was formed here in Arkansas over 15 years ago. Dennis Rainey with Family Life called together about 36 leaders from around the country and said we need to leave our logos and our egos at the door and start working on behalf of children and families. During that season of time, one of the leaders in CAFO, Jason Weber, started a movement called More Than Enough. And their vision was more than enough for children and families before, during, and beyond foster care in every county in the United States. I realized that we could do that here. We began to see that there's a number of organizations who could catch that vision and would come together and say, yeah, let's work together. We're better together if we would come together. So that launched this network, Every Child Arkansas.
What are the goals of Every Child Arkansas?
We have a shortage of foster families in this state. We also have a challenge in our state in that it is the foster families drop out at a pretty high rate. We have almost 60% of families close every year in the state of Arkansas. So just to stay even, we have to recruit and train and license over 900 families every year just to stay even. That's not even including getting the more that we need to do what we're trying to accomplish. And we also have a challenge with that in this state, there's a pretty high percentage of children who don't get to go back with their mom and dad when they're removed. Only a little over 40% of children that are removed get to go back with their actual biological mom and dad. So those are some of the things we're targeting here initially.
How is Every Child Arkansas going to address those issues?
We're doing a collective impact movement, and that's a way that communities around the country for a number of years have come together, decided to work together to make a change in the system in their community for a wide variety of causes. And we're using that same process, which starts with a shared vision. So we have a county by county approach where we have a team of people that is taking each county, trying to understand who's already working there, and then we're in the process of convening them and saying, how could we work together? What are the things that we're doing to find families, to train them, to support them? And I think one key part of our strategy is going to be engaging churches around the state, because this support for families, we refer to it as wraparound support, is something that will help them know that they're not alone when they take children into their homes, that there's other people that are there to do some simple things like bring them meals, to go through the process, which is pretty minimal, of a driver's record test, a background check, so that you could go pick up children and bring them home from school, that you could keep them over a weekend and give a break for the families. And we find that when that happens, when there's wraparound support from within the faith communities, the percent of families that feel like they can stay in it longer, that increases. And then what you have is you have more experienced foster families who are able to do a better job in taking care of the kids that come into their home, and they're stronger and more equipped to do that.
What could we expect from this collaborative approach now?
Well, what I'm hoping for, what we're hoping for, is that really for the first time we're going to have organizations from around the state who have come together, agreed to a plan, and all of them agreeing that they're going to do their part in the plan. And what we hope to see, what we expect to see, is to move to an increased number of foster families and correct some of the imbalances that we have in the state.
So Andrew, one of the interesting and I think a real strategic partnership that occurred in this Every Child Arkansas early discussion was, how is it that we could really collaborate with DCFS on recruiting more foster families, and even this idea of using technology to find ideal placements in each community. So, and there are layers to all of that, but we were able to partner with an organization that had developed some recruitment technology, basically just using this very sophisticated kind of marketing software for us to be able to go through and push ads and content to folks who could be foster parents for the children that are in their community. So we had the opportunity to sit down with Jerome Strickland, who's the director for the Contingent Arkansas, who runs that technology.
The contingent model is an approach that was tested in Oregon, and over 5 years, they were successful to the extent where over 8,000 families and 32,000 volunteers raised their hand and said, hey, I want to join this effort and help serve and cater to and show hospitality to these children and their families. The state hadn't seen that before until they outsourced it to this group. Those aspects of the strategy were welcomed into our amazing state, and now we're deploying it in a new way. So what are those strategies? The strategies are the components in the internet, such as websites, social media, etc. The same sort of influence marketing, the same sort of efforts that really influence us to buy more goods from an Amazon or Walmart.com. We take those pieces and the algorithms to find people that look like great advocates for this type of work, help them understand as far as grow awareness, help influence them to think deep and long about what would my life look like if I were to just raise my hand and do something small. And we'll lead them on a journey to say, well, at some point, you may be at the point where you raise your hand and say, I want to apply to welcome a child into my home. We first look at the overall audience and how do people consume information here. And once you understand that, you step on each of these platforms and target audiences in Facebook, on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, what have you. And you funnel them to the point where they are eventually led to a website, everychildarkansas.org, right? And it helps guide the individual via their zip code to say, within your area, here are options in which you can volunteer or by which you can actually apply to become a foster family. And if that isn't enough and someone doesn't want to make a decision based on a website, there are numbers and opportunities for our team. We have a customer experience team that is very highly trained in empathy and how to walk someone through the journey of considering how might I be involved in child welfare. The people that are on that website are current foster parents, and they have a deep understanding of the system to say, you don't have to fear this journey. We're here to walk you through. I'm an individual here in this state that has done it before you, and I can tell you the impact it has on the child, but even more so the impact it has on you and your family for the good. So how do we know who might be a great family just in looking at over 3 million people within our state? Well, we have a few hunches, and those hunches are gained by using the same algorithms any other tool, again, online does. How Netflix recommends the next video or movie we like to watch. In studying the individuals that have achieved permanency for a child within 2 years, and permanency means they actually adopted that child or they helped them reunify with their home, which is the number one goal in most cases. We want reunification. If they're able to achieve either of those, we look at what are the nuances or things about you that we can see from afar, and let's build profiles of similar families. Let's find those families that look like you across the state and speak to them. Speak to them digitally, speak to them over the phone, speak to them via mail, at events, at the county fair, at their place of worship, if that makes sense. We engage, and what we found is there is a pattern that we can pick up on great individuals all across our state and make them aware of the great need in front of us. Ideal placement is the idea that you reduce the amount of trauma that happens with a child when they're removed from their home temporarily by keeping them close to familiar entities around them. So the first ideal placement is to find a family member. A family member that's capable, willing, and able to take the child in and care for him or her during a period of time. The second most ideal placement is a fictive kin. And just for those that don't understand what that term means, it could be someone in the community, their church, their school, or someplace else, even a best friend's parent that knows that child and can show that connection with that child. They can be a fictive kin and also take the child in. The third best case scenario or ideal placement is staying within that child's county. Why? Because if you'd imagine something were to happen in your or my family, overnight, of course, I am removed and I need to be cared for a period of time, then I wouldn't also want to lose. For me, I went to church here, I had my school and my friends. My neighborhood had some great people, parents and families and friends of mine. I wouldn't want to leave all those individuals at one time while I'm dealing with the trauma of being removed temporarily. So it's idea to keep that individual close. I keep them with certified individuals until we could, one, either reunify or two, place them in a permanent home that adopts them.
So Andrew, you've been involved in child welfare in many different ways for a long time. And so I'd just like to get your opinion on all that's happening now and the potential that we have to actually make things better.
Well, I mean, one, the more the conversation is in front of people, the better. The more people who are invited to the table, the better. The more people see that it's the community's responsibility, the more the church, I would say, in the state of Arkansas, the church has a long history when it comes to being a part of child welfare in this state. I'm excited because of the number of folks. And one of the early meetings of Every Child Arkansas, and I'd come to that meeting and I went home and my wife was asking me, well, hey, what do you think? And my answer was, the conversation is good and it's moving in the right direction. But any move in the right direction is a move in the right direction. There's been this awareness that is made. There's been a bigger story told, been more people invited to the table, but those who have been doing it will keep doing it. Don't give up, because that one matters. The little dude in my house tonight, he matters. The dude at your house, he matters, right? But we're going to have to keep moving. And there's a lot of attention, and this episode has shown a lot of that attention coming with an executive order, and attention coming with Every Child Arkansas. And that's awesome, and I am excited, but I also think we need to be realized, let's keep going. Let's go make mercy triumph over judgment. Let's keep seeing more families reunited. Let's continue to partner with organizations like 100 Families who are truly changing outcomes in communities and give the support necessary for that to happen. My hope, my prayer is that when we're looking back 10 years from now, we'll look back and say, that became a moment of substantial, measurable change in the state of Arkansas. Will there still be work to be done? I don't think there's going to be a day that I can just say, yeah, we don't need any of that anymore, because we will, and that's part of it. But I have a real excitement in knowing there's more people in the conversation. We need to invite, and even invite it more to be, and it's not just to be in the conversation, but to be participants for the greater good of mercy to be known.
You know what excites me, Andrew, having been in this for a bit too. One, the governor issued this executive order and brought Secretary Christy Putnam in to create a plan to support and strengthen families. Two is, we've now got technology entering the state that we didn't have before, and technology allows things to become easier and also to scale.
To hear more of the heart behind this executive order, Paul spoke with Governor Sanders.
Governor, thanks so much for sitting down with us to talk about families and children. And you've just, one of the first acts being governor was to issue an executive order. Why?
Doing a much better job of taking care of the kids across the state of Arkansas is vitally important. We have about 4,100 kids that are in the foster care system here in the state of Arkansas, and we don't have nearly enough families to take care of them. So we created and started this, through the executive order, a working group that will help us recruit more families, train and prepare those families, keep more kids out of the first foster care system in the first place, and really streamline the process so we can do a better job as a state taking care of kids in Arkansas.
Governor, you've personally, well, I know because my wife was at a event that you were volunteering at one time, the Project Zero event. So where does kind of your personal passion around this, where is that driven from?
I don't think there's anything harder to see than a kid who doesn't have a safe place, that doesn't have a family, that doesn't have someone that loves them and is advocating for them. As a parent, I can't imagine my kids being in an environment where they don't feel like they are loved and cared for. And that, unfortunately, is what happens all too often here in the state of Arkansas with these kids. And so any opportunity we have to help these kids feel loved and taken care of, we want to do that. And I want my kids to see that. And so when we have volunteered, we try to take them with us as much as possible so that they can see the difference and hopefully be encouraged to help other people too.
What would success look like to you?
I think success is those 4,100 kids that are in the system either never ending up there in the first place or having a family that takes them in, loves for them, cares for them, and advocates them for the long term.
So Arkansans that may want to do something but not know exactly what to do, what message would you have for them?
I think one of the biggest things is be willing and step up and volunteer, participate. Even if you're not somebody who can take a kid in as a foster parent, there are still a lot of things you can do and organizations you can volunteer your time or give financially to those organizations to really help out other families who are able to take those kids in.
And Governor, you named 4 organizations, 3 agencies, and then Every Child Arkansas. That was unusual, at least in my experience. Why did you put Every Child Arkansas in as one of the organizations to come up with the plan?
Well, I think you have to have somebody to really lead the effort. One of the things I think that has kept us from doing a better job is not coordinating with all of the different organizations out there. And so bringing everybody to the table, having that collaboration and coordination through Every Child Arkansas will make such a huge difference. To have one organization kind of leading and bringing all the players to the table, I think is going to give us the type of success that we're looking for. One thing that has definitely never been missing from the organizations that are part of this working group is the passion that they have for the kids in the state of Arkansas. What I think they were missing is the partnership between all of those different groups. So taking a passion that is so evident and matching that with a partnership of all of the different organizations that are kind of working in a similar space, I think gives us a lot more power to be successful. Taking each of the strengths and advantages that these different groups have, putting them at one table is going to really help serve the kids of Arkansas in a way that we've never seen before.
Andrew, thank you so much for joining me on this season as we're talking about how do we give children and families a chance at life. Any parting shots?
Thank you, and thanks for all that 100 Families is doing and Restore Hope is doing in the state of Arkansas. It's through efforts like that I think we're going to see mercy triumph at the end of the day, and at the end of the day we'll be grateful for that. So thanks again for just the opportunity.
I am very, very excited to be able to resource more so we could build these organizational capacities for the alignment that executive order and the plan that's going to come out of it is going to come, where these agencies are aligning plans and working with communities. And so in that alignment, I know that we're going to be able to help make our communities better.
Well, and I would say towards that end, and I think is really important, is that alignment will allow for children to succeed, for families to succeed, and for communities to succeed. Without the alignment, all it becomes is an obstacle. And so when an alignment can happen and a true partnership in belief of children, and a true partnership and belief of the family, and a true partnership and belief of the community, well, we got a different state. And what I will hope to be true is 10 years from now, we have other states asking, what's different about Arkansas? Mm-hmm. What happened there? What happened in Arkansas? And we can point back and say, community happened in Arkansas because families were strengthened and kids were safe.
We aligned our agencies' assets and actions, the courts, and then the folks that help biological families, that are foster families, help foster families, and serve children. And in that, I think we're going to see a significant change.
Thank you for being a part of the Smart Justice Podcast Season 3. Join us for Season 4 in the spring of 2024 as we discuss issues of juvenile justice. Thanks to our guests, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Dr. Phil Goad, Jerome Strickland, and Secretary Christy Putnam. Season 3 podcast hosts were Paul Chapman and Dr. Andrew Baker. Our Season 3 theme song, A Chance at Life, was written and produced by Arkansas artist Jason Truby. Other musical credits include Lonely Company by Anthony Catacoli and Standing on the Edge by Stephen Keach. Smart Justice is a work of Restore Hope. To dig deeper into this season's topic, check out the Smart Justice magazine at smartjustice.org.